new highs, Matt. Walk us through what you think explains this. Is this correlation to tech stocks, Matt? Is it just continued enthusiasm from crypto-friendly policies from the White House? What do you chalk it up to? What do you make of it?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think both of those are part of the story, but the bigger piece is just massive, unrelenting demand meeting limited supply. We're seeing companies buying huge amounts of Bitcoin and ETFs purchasing huge amounts of Bitcoin, and there's just not that much Bitcoin to go around. I'll mention in the last 30 days, we've seen Bitcoin ETFs acquire $5.2 billion of Bitcoin. That represents institutional investors making a giant allocation to this space. We see that trend continuing. And with the limited supply of Bitcoin, it's just forcing the price up. I think we're detaching from $100,000, and I think we're going substantially higher from here.
When you say substantially higher, Matt, give me some bogeys to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once we break the gravity of around $100,000, where we've been trading in and out of for the last 6 months, I think it's sort of anyone's guess where we go. Here at Bitwise, we expect Bitcoin to top $200,000 by the end of the year, which I know sounds like a very large number, but the flows we're seeing from institutional investors and corporations are really significant. They're accelerating, not slowing down, and I think they're going to force that price substantially higher.
All right, 200,000, it's on the board. Meanwhile, Matt, Congress kicking off crypto week. What are your expectations there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other piece of the story. At the same time as you have this institutional allocation, you have very positive news from Washington. What we're hoping to see is the Genius Stablecoin Act, which passed through the Senate on a bipartisan basis, get through the House, onto the president's desk, and signed. That'll help Wall Street move into crypto in a major way. We're also hoping to see the Market Structure Act, called the Clarity Act, make progress through Congress. Those are the two big pieces of legislation. If we get those done this year, crypto is on an extremely strong footing. You're going to see, again, Wall Street make a major move into the space. You're going to see much fewer risks of blowups and fraud and negative events like we saw in the past. It's going to be a very strong foundation if those happen, and I think they might even this week.
Hey, Matt, David Hollerith here. I wanted to ask about Bitcoin flows you were talking about earlier. I mean, last year, the story was really about the Bitcoin ETFs. This year, it seems like it's more about corporations buying Bitcoin. And I wanted to ask about those Bitcoin treasury companies. What do you make of it all? It looks like they've actually been acquiring Bitcoin at almost a faster pace, sometimes faster than the ETFs this year.
They have been. It's really remarkable. It's become a two horses pulling this cart. The ETFs are still doing their part, but you're absolutely right. These companies are buying even more. For context, Bitcoin companies bought about 160,000 Bitcoin in Q2 alone. That's 100% of the net new supply of Bitcoin that will come into the market this year. So in one quarter, they bought the entire year's worth of supply. I know a lot of people out there are skeptical of this trend. If you're on the inside and you're seeing the proposals for new deals flowing into your inbox, you know that Q3 is actually going to probably be an even bigger quarter than Q2. So this is a trend that I think actually accelerates before it plateaus and maybe tails off at the end of the year. But I would expect significant buying in Q3 from this sort of quadrant of the market.
Matt, when friends and family ask you why you own Bitcoin, what do you tell them? Do you say smart trade? Do you say store of value, diversify your portfolio? I'm just interested.
Yeah, all three of those are true. But look, the way I think of it is fairly simple, which is most of us are 100% exposed to dollar-based assets. We're exposed to stocks, we're exposed to bonds, we earn our salary in dollars. If you look at the US debt and deficit, it's unsustainable. People need some exposure to an alternative. Bitcoin is the best of those alternatives. It's the fastest horse. I'm not telling my friends and family to put 50, 60, 70% of their portfolio into Bitcoin. But right now they're 100% dollars and 0% hard assets. I think having a few percentage points in Bitcoin, historically it's been good for returns. Historically, it's had low correlations. I think it's a good investment bet, but it's also insurance against that fiat risk. I think it makes a lot of sense.
What about as a medium of exchange, Matt, a currency?
Look, I think we'll get there on an international basis long term, but we don't have to get there for Bitcoin to be extremely valuable. Bitcoin could be worth more than $1 million per coin, even just to get to par with gold. And when's the last time you bought a cup of coffee with gold? Look, I do think Bitcoin has medium exchange characteristics. I think we'll get there in the 2030s, but Bitcoin's going to have to be priced $1 million or above before that's even really in play. You get all that as extra upside on top of this store of value investment. It's like a free option that you get for a core investment with, in my view, a high probability of success and significant sort of 10x style upside. I think that's what you get with Bitcoin.
And Matt, just staying on the medium of exchange topic, the stablecoin story, how long do you think that adoption story is? There's obviously been banks, fintech companies, all kind of laying out a strategy ahead of the legislation that's expected to pass to sort of allow them to get involved in the market. How long do you think that story takes to play out?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it, to be honest. You have the US Secretary of Treasury saying that market could 10x in the next 3 years. Try to think of another area of the economy that you can invest in where the government thinks it will 10x in the next 3 or 4 years. I think there's going to be an arms race from Wall Street to get into this space. Look, it'll take a long time before it replaces underlying networks if it gets there in any full shape or form. But you're going to see huge investment. Every Wall Street firm looked at Circle's IPO, 10x oversubscribed, the best performing stock on the market this year. They've all looked at Tether, which is the other leading stablecoin issuer, which makes $10 to $15 billion a year, and they want a piece of that puzzle. So there's going to be a flurry of activity once we get the regulations passed